Hi, I'm Gene McLaughlin. I'd like to welcome you to Council Candidates 2017. On November 7th, Old Bridge voters will go to the polls to elect 6 candidates to the ward seats on the Township Council. We're going to bring you interviews with all of these candidates here on Old Bridge Television. Our purpose is to let you hear the candidates' views on key issues facing the township and their specific wards, and to give you a better idea of who to vote for when you go to the polls. I'd like to introduce our guest right now. Starting from my left right here is the Republican candidate, Frank Weber, the Democratic candidate, Adina Brown, and the Independent candidate, Rosemary Watkins. Folks, welcome and thank you for coming out.
Good evening.
Appreciate you being here. Frank, if I may start with you. You've been around Township a while, but people still may not know you. Would you give us a little personal bio, please?
I've lived in Old Bridge since 1974 when my wife and I moved here. We've raised 4 children, put them through the school district. I thought it was a great town now, and I think it can be a better town tomorrow. I've been active in volunteerism since 1979 when my son's soccer coach got red carded and thrown out of a game. And it's been a series of boards and services since then. And I think we can make it a better town, and I want to work and be able to do that.
Okay, good, Frank. Thank you. Frank, when you're not doing this, when you're not running for office, what do you do? What's your profession?
I'm a vice president of member services at the Global Association of Risk Professionals, which runs a very high level international risk management certification process.
Well, that sounds interesting. Well, okay, thank you. Adina, if I may turn to you, few moments, personal bio, please, something about your family.
Sure. I've been in Old Bridge for 7 years. I've been married for 11. So my husband and I reside here with our 2 boys, ages 6 and 10. They are also currently in Madison Park School, which is an Old Bridge Township school. And we've, been enjoying living here. We really like it. We've met some really great people.
Okay.
Yeah.
When you're not running for office, what do you do?
I do a lot of things, actually. I
Okay.
have been in education in the past, specifically special needs and early childhood development. But over the past maybe 10 or more years, I've actually done a lot of community outreach, working with mental health and mental wellness.
Okay, thank you. And our independent candidate, Rosemary Watkins. Rosemary, people may not know you either. A little bio, if you would, please.
I've lived in Old Bridge over 30 years, 24 of them in Madison Park. I reside with my husband, John. I have 5 children and 11 grandchildren. I went to East Brunswick High School and I went to Middlesex County College. I was
And what were you doing? Middlesex County College, and what happened there?
I went for accounting, but I did not finish.
Okay.
And
What do you do now?
now I am retired, but I formerly worked for AT&T in marketing, and I also worked for the Home News Tribune in advertising.
Okay, well, thank you. Frank, if I can come back to you, why are you running?
I've got more time now than I've ever had, and I've been consistently involved in a volunteer role to the community since 1979. I feel I've been successful in terms of the number of boards that I've been on, including the Library Board of Trustees, which I'm currently the president of, and the Board of Education I served on for 18 years. That my peers have selected me for leadership roles in those organizations, and I've been able to work with diverse groups of people and kind of work collaboratively with them to make improvements to the town. And I think there's more work to be done, and I have now the time and the opportunity, even more so than I've had before.
Okay, thank you, Frank. Adina, why are you choosing to run at this time?
Well, Gene, I have to say, I started out just wanting to be educated about local politics, and it just turned into more.
Really?
Yeah, I do a lot of volunteerism myself. I help women with Dress for Success. I've been doing that for a while.
Really?
Yeah, helping displaced women to find employment and ways to gain that employment. So we help with like resume building, also, of course, apparel, getting them prepared for the interview process, everything. And, I've also worked with Jobs for America's graduates, helping them to create forums and events that get kids engaged and ready to face the world after they get out of high school.
Sounds interesting.
Yeah, it's really fun. So,
Yeah.
Just by nature, that's what I do. And wanting to get educated about politics locally led me into this, and I just find it's a natural fit,
Okay, well,
Yes.
thank you.
Thank you.
Rosemary, you're in a spot here. You're an independent candidate running in this township. Why are you running, and why are you running as an independent?
I'm running as an independent because I do not have a party affiliation. I have never been a Democrat or a Republican, and I feel like Ward 3 needs good representation, and I feel that being at the northern end of town, we don't actually get all the representation that we need.
Okay.
We have issues that are always sliding by, and we really don't know basically what's going on in town. Some people don't even know we're a part of Old Bridge. I too volunteer. I was on the Human Relations Commission here in town, and I was appointed by Mayor Cannon. I'm a past president of the Old Bridge Veterans of Foreign Wars Ladies Auxiliary, and I currently serve as the vice president of the Madison Park Homeowners Association.
Okay, thank you, Rosemary. What strength or expertise do you see yourself bringing to the council if you are elected?
I think I have very good communication skills, and I could talk to anyone. I feel like people need to be heard, and their issues need to be brought to the forefront. And I think that just by my communication skills alone, I can help solve some of the issues of Ward 3.
Okay, thank you. We're going to get to that in a moment, so just hold that thought if you would, Rosemary. Adina, what strength or expertise would you bring in? You've already elaborated some of the activity you're involved in, so you feel that would be part of your strength, huh?
Yeah, I definitely feel that background is helpful. I've always worked with different age groups, different backgrounds of people. You know, I especially love working with seniors and children, and of course everybody in between. But I just have this innate way about me that likes to help people solve problems, and I go to bat for it. You know, I'm kind, you know, I try to be pleasant about it, but I definitely am determined to solve problems so people can just have a better way of life. You know, that's my goal always.
Okay, thank you. And Frank, I think you just did a good job of outlining your strengths or expertise. Is there anything you'd want to add to that?
Well, I think one of the things that I feel most positive about is, along with other fellow board members, is my role as the president of the Board of Education when the referendum was passed in 2001, which improved every one of the schools in town, including the 2 elementary schools in Ward 3, Madison Park and Cheesequake, and the middle school that Ward 3 students attend, which is called Sandburg Middle School, and the high school they now attend, which is Old Bridge High School. I made those similar kind of improvements to the soccer league, and I've also was instrumental in a nursing reconfiguration program that saved about $6 million. I think in many cases it's kind of related to what I've done all my life for a living, and but it's a place where I've been successful in applying it, and I'd like to continue to do that. Ward 3 needs things that have been talked about for years and they have not gotten. They need more recreational opportunities. They're bound by highways. It's hard for kids to get from place A to place B. And I also think we're working on trying to improve library services all over the town, and one of those areas we want to make improvements in is Ward 3 as well, so kids can get books there and return them there.
Okay, thank you, Frank. You sort of anticipated my next question. Take a look at the township as a whole, big picture look at the township. What is a key issue that you would see or a key challenge in the township? Before we get to the ward, what would be the key issue you would address?
One of the major issues which they're confronted with is that the prior councils have approved a tremendous expansion in apartments. They've allowed essentially the master plan to be avoided. There's over 3,500 apartments planned. That's going to be a tremendous drain on the infrastructure. And without planning, it's just going to dump. I mean, Ward 3 sits at the tip of town, even though some people think it's sayable, as Rosemary said, that it's going to just continue to drive traffic down Route 9 and into 516. So I think the new council, when it's constituted, has to revisit that and see if we can't make some improvements to either reduce it or eliminate it. Old Bridge already has one of the highest levels of apartments in the state. Nothing wrong with the apartments, but the fact of the matter is we need ratables in this town, and we need to be able to provide services, and it's going to be very difficult if we can't roll that back.
Okay, thank you, Frank. Adina, what do you think the major issue is facing the township? Not the ward per se right now, but the township.
Yeah, there are quite a number of them. One, for instance, that Mr. Weber just mentioned is the apartments, overdevelopment.
Yeah.
I know that's a big issue for a lot of people because it would potentially exhaust the resources that we have here, the school systems. It would cause overcrowding also on the roadways, of course. Another issue, of course, is taxes. Everyone's really concerned about that.
That's the 500-pound gorilla.
Right,
the
right.
taxes.
And as Mr. Weber said, I am looking into that extensively, how I could be of help with that. And one of the things that Mr. Weber mentioned was ratables, and I too agree with that. Getting more businesses to feel comfortable and, making it easy for them to come here. And good businesses, good, strong, viable, stable businesses that will bring in, that tax money, but not exhaust our resources here. They go home at the end of the night. They don't need necessarily our safety and our, fire and all those other resources, but they're here and they contribute to our economy. So.
Okay, well said.
Yeah.
Thank you. Rosemary, what do you think? What's the big issue, the broad issue facing the township?
I believe it's also the growth, that there is going to be way too much growth when and if these apartments come. Our schools are almost overcrowded now, and as for the traffic, I agree that the traffic is tremendous. And I think that is one of the major problems here. I also think that taxes are also a problem in Old Bridge. We are so high that people just cannot stay here anymore. And a lot of people are moving out of town because of the taxes. So I think we need to get a handle on the taxes, a handle on the growth, and I think we need to get a handle on the opioid epidemic that's in this town.
Okay, thank you. If you would just hold your thought, each of you, please. We're getting ready to take a break, folks. This has been Council Candidates 2017. Our guests tonight are from Ward 3, Frank Weber, Republican, Adina Brown, Democrat, and Rosemary Watkins, Independent. Please stay with us. We'll be back in a minute to continue our discussion. Folks, welcome back to Council Candidates 2017. We're talking about the Republican, the Democratic, and the Independent candidates from Ward 3. If we can pick up where we left off, before we went to the break, folks, we were discussing issues facing the township. Can we narrow it down a little? And Rosemary, if I may go to you, what's a specific issue to Ward 3 that's annoying, that's bothersome, that should be treated, that the voters are complaining about?
I think that one of the main issues is the blighted area.
The blighted area.
Yes,
Help us
all
with that.
the empty stores and buildings that we have
Oh, really?
down at our end of town, and we need to get people in there to get these operating again. We have almost a whole mall on Route 9 where the Kohl's is that only has Kohl's. Now a new gym has come in there. On the other side, we have the empty Lowe's building that is just standing stagnant. And so I think that is a major concern for the people in Ward 3.
Ward 3.
That takes away from us when you ride down the highway and you see all these empty stores.
Right. Okay.
I don't think that's a very good thing. I think we need to really get working on that. We were told when Mayor Henry was being elected that he was going to hire someone to oversee this. And apparently now we have Steve Manakis.
Steve Mamakis is the
Business
Director of the
Alliance.
Office for Economic
Right.
Development. Yes, ma'am.
And it seems as though he is trying to do some things, but we need to be proactive in this area. That is a major problem for Ward 3. And also we have no recreation for our children. There is not a place where they can go that is safe.
Okay.
And we do have an empty structure at the ball fields that is owned by the township. And if we could turn that into a recreation place for our kids, that would be a really good thing. Now, some of the kids would have to travel, but basically that would be a great place to have a rec building for us because we have the ball fields, We have a playground there, and there really is nowhere for our children to go. And we have been promised this for many, many years, even when Reggie was our councilman, and nothing ever came to fruition.
Okay. Thank you, Rosemarie. Adina, you're the mother of 2 young children. Let's address the recreation issue first. What do you think? Is that a problem for you too?
Absolutely. Well, I could see that it is an issue for a lot of families in the area. Definitely, we want to make sure we have clean and healthy spaces for kids to
Right.
play with in our neighborhood, and also like was mentioned, a lot of the recreation is currently out of our area. It could be a drive, it could be a bus ride for some children that live in our specific part of Old Bridge. So that definitely is a concern. We want a place for children to do activities after school that are, good, stable activities that will keep them in a, good place in life and also keep them out of trouble. So that's a really good thing for us to focus on, as either of us gets into council.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. Frank, what do you think? Rosemary mentioned a couple of key issues for the ward: blighted buildings, blighted area, and the recreation. I know you've been involved with recreation
Well,
over the years. What do you think?
A lot of what is being called as blight is probably should be recalled Amazon, because in many ways, box stores as we know them are going the way of the dodo bird.
They sure are.
And it's not just in Ward 3. I traveled the country extensively over the last few years.
A couple
and
thousand malls are
it's
closing
in small
this year.
towns, it's in big towns,
Yes,
it's a
sir.
similar situation anywhere. But the point I think that needs to be made is these buildings are still here. If we can't fill them with other businesses, and what some small towns do, some towns in Pennsylvania, they do a lot of crafting things, they do other
Right.
kind of things to repurpose the buildings so that they don't become blight, that they become an asset to the community. Now, obviously, that's going to take cooperation with the owners,
Right.
but the owners at some point are going to get to the point where they're going to pay taxes on empty buildings, or they're going to work with
Well, they
people.
are, as a matter of fact. The
Right.
Lowe's building on Route 9,
Oh,
they've
yeah,
been
they-
taxing for a couple of years now on that.
Yeah, and from what I understand, they'll continue to pay it until the lease is up, and then they'll leave. That Lowe's building, if the township could do it, would make a nice ideal recreation building.
Well
and
said, yeah,
and
good point.
that's and the access there, certainly from Madison Park, even though it's at the one end of it, it's still far better than we have now. Every one of our major residential areas, whether it's from Madison Gardens or Spring Hill Village, Central Park, London Terrace or Parkwood, or Madison Park, are all isolated by strips of highway, dangerous crossings for kids.
Yeah.
So that's been an ongoing problem. I know Reggie had been working for it for all the time he served on the council, and it's close to 30 years, and there was never any headway made. But I totally agree, it's something that we should focus on and attempt to repurpose those empty buildings, and also attempt to get some recreation facilities. And if we can't bring the facilities to all of the kids, then we need to transport the other kids to them.
Frank, would you identify any other issues? The blighted area came up, the recreation. Do you have any other thoughts?
Well,
That would be a Ward 3 issue.
Yeah, well, this is not just it is certainly a Ward 3 issue, but it's a township issue, state issue, county issue, countrywide issue. When the federal laws changed and there was a much tighter control put on drugs that were being taken by kids,
Yes, sir.
we did have deaths then, but we didn't have anywhere near the proportion you have
No.
now. Now the government tightened them up so the kids can't get them, or they can't get them for whatever. And these aren't necessarily kids. These are people in their young 20s or middle 20s. They now go to $5 street heroin,
Yeah.
and they're dealing in a dangerous thing, and that certainly has to be addressed at every level, at the community level, the state level, the county level, and the national level. It has to be destroyed at some point.
It's a major issue. What do we do? I mean, we are not going to solve it here tonight, probably. But what do we do? What are you going to say, Dina?
Yes,
Go on.
I have some thoughts.
Yes, please.
Definitely education first, of course, law enforcement, but then also treatment. So I think education plays a big part on it, and it also kind of ties into recreation, right? Because if we have a place for kids to go after school, they're not bored, they're not alone. They're not just kicking around for
Right.
something to do. That's interesting for them at the moment, and sometimes that's what they can fall into, unfortunately. So I think recreation ties into that, but I think right now Old Bridge is really working hard at getting more education to parents. We'd like parents to attend these, forums and these events that are made for students and parents to learn more about the signs of opioid addiction and also other drug addictions, and then just the signs to look for if a child might be veering in that direction. So education plays a big part because we
Right.
can really stop things a lot earlier on
Yes.
if people are educated about what it looks like. Yeah.
It's a major issue. It really is. Anybody else have anything to say about Ward 3? Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I do. I feel like
Please.
there's a number of issues, going door to door and talking to people. I've heard
Yeah, I was
quite
going to
a-
ask, what are
yeah,
they
I've
saying?
heard quite a few things.
They
Definitely
told me.
people are frustrated about the streets being ripped up in Madison Park. I live in Madison Park. They haven't gotten to me yet on my street, but I know they're going to be there soon because they started doing markings and everything. But I know that is like a major frustration of people. So I am really committed to making sure that any type of street work that's done gets repaired in a very smooth way, that they're
Right.
not ripping streets up and then kind of slapping
Yeah,
it back together. Another thing, obviously, that Rosemary mentioned was the feral cats. And I know there's a lot
Yeah.
of like neuter and release programs that deal with feral cats that humanely remove the cats from the neighborhood, get them treated, and then place them back into loving homes. So that's something that I'm really interested in as well. And then, of course, there's the pipeline issue. And, I'm committed to making sure I stand up against that, because it really
Okay.
does affect Ward 3 strongly. So.
Is Ward 3 going to be more affected by this pipeline than the other wards?
But I believe so, yes, because
It
it
is.
will travel through our side of town.
It's going to
more.
travel through your side of town. Okay. Anybody else?
To address the pipeline,
Please.
that's Williams Transco, and we already have one pipeline going on already in Cheesequake Road,
Right.
and this would be the twin to it. We have a compressor station that releases benzene gas, and it is strictly monitored, so I am told. There is a possibility it could be polluting our water. And now they're going to try and put a twin in, but that won't happen until 2019.
Right. It's a year or two away, as I understand it. Yes.
And the catch and release, trap and release, is already an ordinance here in town. They are trying to form a committee right now, but it is going through readings and readings at the council. But I
Right.
believe the ordinance was passed, and that there is I'm not sure of his name, a captain who is going to be in charge in the police, and he's going to pick the committee. And basically, it's just to get the feral cats in a colony, and people will not have to be Old Bridge employees.
Right.
It will be private people that will go feed the cats, leave the food down for half an hour. The food will be taken away, and they'll capture them. They'll put a little click in their ear to show
Right,
that
they'll
they
tag
were
them.
neutered, a
Yes.
tag,
Yes, ma'am.
and then they'll be released back. And the whole idea is that they will not keep reproducing, so
Right.
that the number should go down. But
Okay.
we have someone in Madison Park who has 20 cats
That's a lot of cats.
in her backyard
Wow.
from the feral cats. So I firmly feel that that ordinance should go through, and that they should effectively and efficiently get a committee together to get this off the ground.
Okay. Thank you.
As a
Frank, you hearing much about the feral cats from your voters?
yeah, but I've been a pet owner ever since I was a child and
Yeah.
at home, and as an adult, we've always had cats and dogs.
Yes, sir.
And I think it's a wonderful thing that we have so many willing volunteers, skilled volunteers, who are willing to work and deal with the issue in as humane a way as possible, and I totally support that effort. One comment I would make about the pipeline, that, it's still a ways from getting the final federal approval.
Right.
It's going to run parallel to the pipeline that has existed for the last 70 years.
Is that where it's going?
Without any incident. And of course, all of the homes that are in Central Park, Madison Park, in the apartments, are all heated by gas, which is obviously a cleaner fuel than
Right.
oil and all of those things. So there's an impact on the other side. The other thing is this pipeline isn't going to give us 1 cubic inch of gas in New Jersey. It's going across the bay. It's going to New York City. But it is going to clean a tremendous amount of our proximate space as well. And I think people need to think about the impact on both sides. I'm not particularly in favor of it, but
Yes,
there
sir.
are some benefits as well to be considered.
Let me ask you a question, if I may. Can one person sitting up on the council make a difference? Do you think so, Frank?
Well, one of the reasons in most of the all boards of education and federal courts and state courts is that you have an odd number of people. Is there are times when people are going to split on an issue and it's going to be a 4-4 vote. If you're that one person who makes a difference, it certainly does make a difference.
Huh.
And it does happen. It happens in the Supreme Court on a regular basis
sir.
for hundreds of years. There are 5-4 votes that make dramatic positive decisions and dramatic not so positive decisions. But certainly that one person can make a difference.
Okay, thank you. Adina, what do you think? One person up there out of 9, you've watched the council in operation. If you were up there, could you make a difference?
Yeah, I certainly think so. You know, I look at the example of Reggie Butler. I know from what I've heard, he wasn't necessarily able to get everyone to agree with every single point that he had, but he was a bipartisan person. He worked with everyone and did so in a peaceful way. You know, if he had an issue, he was able to talk to both sides very seamlessly. And, you know, I can't fill his shoes, definitely, and I don't profess to, but I definitely would like to follow in his footsteps in that way. Yeah, definitely, if you're willing to work in unison with people, it's possible, for sure.
Okay. What do you think, Rosemary? Can you make a difference if you're sitting up there in the council? Could you make a difference, particularly addressing these issues facing the township and the ward?
I think so. I think so. I think that if you can get everybody's ear and talk calmly, express your ideas and views, yes, I think that one person can make a difference.
Okay, well, we're coming near the end of the program right now, so I'm going to ask you to do me one other thing. Just tell your voters why they should send you, particularly as an independent, why should they send you to the council?
Because I feel as though I am a communicator and I listen well. I can talk to anyone. I'd be happy to hear the issues and bring them forth to the council, to the mayor and council, and not be dissuaded by any political party.
Okay, Adina, I'll ask you the same question. Why should voters send you to the council?
Well, I will say, like Rosemary, I work first for the people, so I'm all about whatever the issue is and however it needs to be solved. I'm able to talk to both sides and get it done. The other thing, obviously, is that I've worked with people for so long, and again, from different backgrounds, different walks of life, and different age groups. So intrinsically, I work to solve problems to help people have a better way of life and a better quality of life. And again, I'm determined, you know, and this isn't an age thing, but I do have a lot of energy, and despite having a family, I have time, I have the support, full support of my family to really work for Old Bridge. And already, you know, being out in the trenches, going door to door, I have full support in that. And so I'm ready to, you know, do whatever Old Bridge and specifically Ward 3 needs from me.
Okay, and Frank, I'll give you the last word. Why should the voters send you to the council?
I've been involved since 1979 on the school board for 18 years, currently on the library board for 6 years. But I think the most important issue is the consistent level of being respected by my peers and been made an officer, either vice president or president, or in the case of Recreation Advisory, chairman. And as groups, we've accomplished many positive things over those years. What I'm saying, Gene, is I have a successful track record of accomplishment, of knowing what the issues are, and actually bringing issues to fruition, getting them closed. And I think I can do that in Ward 3 and also as one of 9 council people in Old Bridge to the rest of Old Bridge as well. I have the ability, the desire, and the time more so than I've ever had to do that. Old Bridge has been a wonderful town for my family, and I really want to continue to give back.
Okay, well said, all of you. Thank you very much for participating tonight. To just review once again, Frank Weber, Republican, Adina Brown, Democrat, and Rosemary Watkins, the Independent. Again, folks, great job tonight. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Folks, this has been Council Candidates. I'm Gene McLaughlin. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you next time. Take care.